While the last person switches over there, we will go ahead and get almost started. So, welcome to the Lightning Talks, day 1 of 3. We have 10 people scheduled for today. They're all up front and ready to go. If you will be giving an advertisement, just wander up to the front row. Acme will hand you this. Otherwise, go to a microphone back there and it will be turned on for you when you get there. If you are giving an advertisement, you don't have to start if they're still clapping for the person up here. It's not fair to you. If you're a speaker and you're up here and they're still clapping for the advertisement, you can wait. It's not fair. You will have about 5 minutes if you are speaking up here. After 4, you will hear the ding, which... Can you hit that for me? Like that. After 5, you'll hear the gong. Okay, go ahead. If you want to submit a lightning talk for later in the week, there are still spots available. Just go through the website, you submit it. You might want to come by and tell me that you're going to do it, and it might help you get on the schedule. If you are on the schedule and you have a problem with day 2 or 3, also let me know well in advance so we can take care of that too. And that should about do it, so we'll get started.
Hello everyone, my name is Wesley Johnson. Today I'll be talking to you about Google Coding. Google Coding is a project, obviously hosted by Google, and it's for pre-university students aged 13 to 18. And it was inspired by GSoC, so Google Summer of Code. I want to today encourage you to submit your projects for GSoC because it's a lot, and GCI, because it's a lot of fun and it can really do great things, as I'll show you today. Right, so first of all, I'll talk about what is GCI. As I said, it's a Google project extended to students 13 to 18, and it's pre-university, so if you're at university, then GSoC is probably more appropriate. It's aimed to teach students about the open source community, how to talk to people and how to ask people how to do things, and also teach them about the various projects that you can work on and talk to people about. It's also a great way for students to earn money because a lot of people would rather not do hard labor, so this is easier just sit in front of a computer. So I want to talk about the 4 people that GCI benefits, because obviously it needs to benefit someone. First of all, open source projects, then the open source community, the students who take part, and Google. So first of all, how does GCI help the open source project? A lot of projects can submit tasks. Last time there were 10 to 15, so last winter GCI took place for the first time, and there were about 10 to 15 projects. And a lot of projects got completed, some harder ones didn't, but all the easy ones pretty much got completed. And students really learned about the project. I know what I did. I'll talk about later, what I did. But students really learned about the project and the people in the community around them. So how does GCI help the open source community? Well, obviously to be able to fulfill these tasks and actually understand what they're talking about, they have to talk to the people around the project, the community around the project, and that really helps them understand how to solve problems and how to find out what's going on, what they have to do. And also students become more interested in the community, so that'll probably encourage them to continue working with the people they were working with during GCI. How does GCI help students? I think it's quite obvious. It's a great way to get some technical experience, especially teenagers like me. And they can also develop great technical skills, and you also have supervisors who teach you things like I had to be taught how to use GitHub, and now I know how to use it. And it also helps them learn about the community and the projects, so they actually know what they're working on. I mean, they could be working on something they don't even know what it does, but most people learn about the things that they're working on. And then, of course, it has to help Google because they're paying for all this. It's a great way to find future employees because Google actually, what happens is the tasks have a various difficulty, and the more tasks you complete, the more points you get, and the harder the tasks are, the more points you get. And then the top 10 students get a trip to Mountain View in California. and basically get to meet all the Google executives probably, and then they can sort of see if they want to employ any of them in the future. And also encourages people to work on open source projects. And it's also a great way to give back to the community for Google, because they use a lot of open source projects. And then I'll talk about what I actually did for GCI, because I took part. I did a lot of English to German translation. That's probably the thing I did most of the time, mainly for websites. I also set up and learned how to use GitHub, which is great. I had to submit some pull requests for some of the work I did. And I also updated some makefiles. I did a lot of other things, but these are the main 3 things that I did. And here is a screenshot of my GitHub account. It's not very full yet at all, but hopefully that will fill up. So now I want to encourage you to get involved, because it's really a great project for you to learn. As for your projects, for C-PAN authors, should submit their project. So one of the main things is obviously translation, writing tests, increasing code coverage, fixing bugs, writing documentation, making videos about projects, which is actually great because it really publicizes the project, and the students who are making the videos learn a lot about the project, and also investigating approaches. If you have any questions, please tweet me or email me, whatever you want. Thanks a lot for listening, and bye.
Last year at the auction, there were unique t-shirts that were sold to people who bought them. Actually, they bought the promise that I would make the t-shirts for them. The t-shirts are there. If I owe you a shirt, come get it. But I won't give it to you unless you let me take a photo. Was that too quick?
Okay, so my name is Tadeusz Sośnierz, also known as Tadzik, and I've been working on... Sorry. Okay, I've been working on pod stuff in Perl 6 this summer on Google Summer of Code. So what the pod is actually about, how is it different from the old pod we know from Perl 5? So pod has been redesigned, it's completely changed, it's more unified, more generalized. It has been specified in Synopsys 26 amongst the other Perl 6 synopsys. And I've implemented most of the specification in Google Summer of Code this year. So in Perl 5, pod was just, like I said, a sad dish. Like a comment in the code, it got completely ignored when you just executed it and just thrown away, and the Perl parser just extracted it from the code and ignored the code. So in Perl 6, actually, it's a part of the language. It's just a subset of it. In the Perl 6 grammar, you get the pod parser along with the Perl 6 parser. And the pod parser is actually the part of the compiler, as the Perl 6 compiler produces the AST of the code, the pod parser produces the document object model, and it exposes it in the $$ equals pod variable. It's file scoped, and you get all the documentation you've written in this variable. So the output formatter, like pod to text or pod to HTML or whatever, just traverses the pod variable and produces output from it. We can just write our pod in a Perl 6 file and then inspect the pod variable manually and print stuff. This prints hello world as expected. This is the pod 0 is the first pod block that appears. Then content 0 is the first paragraph in this pod block, and content is the actual content, which is our hello world. So we can actually write something like this, write an init block, use an output producer and print, there should be print, whatever, and print the pod produced by an output producer from the pod variable. But we are lazy, we don't have to do that, and there is a ---- doc switch to the Perl 6 compiler, which adds automatically the doc init block, which gets executed only when you pass the doc switch to it, and it just parses and produces the output and prints it out for the documentation we have. Is that it? No, it's not. We have more stuff. We can also document not like the file as a whole, but the code in the small pieces. So we are tying both to the code we're writing. We can document classes, subroutines, methods, parameters, local variables, global variables, whatever with it. And we can do that now. Like we're writing a class. Oops. Okay, it has a block after that. And we can add a comment after it. Sorry, my LaTeX actually got screwed. So the hash at the very top has an equal sign after it. And the class is a complete class, not just a class zebra. It has mustache brackets all around. And the documentation you add at the very top is attached to the Y method, the Y attribute on every class you got. And you can print it out, you can do whatever you want with it, introspect stuff. And it also works for subroutines, methods, attributes, variables, and so. And yeah, that works now. So, any questions? Okay, thank you.
Very nice to see you here at YAPC once a year, but there are other 51 weeks in a year when we can't hear about each other. I know there are various blogs, but I recently started a mailing list, a newsletter called Perl Weekly. So if you have too many news items in your RSS reader, or too few, then you might want to sign up to this newsletter and get several news items every week. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Marc Keating. It says up there, this is a lot of announcements that I'm going to do quite quickly. Google Summer Code this year. Quite a lot of fun has been had. These are the 6 people we had doing the Google Summer Code. We chose them, pretty much cherry-picked them from people who wanted to do the event because they were really, really keen, had really, really good ideas, and were already talking in the community. But we did some other things to make a success this year. First of all, we standardised the information that was available for the Google Summer Code. We wrote a plan of what was going to happen. We created a repo for all the common information and where we could store all the data. We made a guide for students and mentors, and we mailed it out to them. We said, this is your responsibility. This is the method that you will do it by. This is how you can maintain a good experience. You will follow it. We gave a very, very clear route for students with help via IRC, what to do if they had issues or problems, who they could contact, which other organisers apart from their mentors they could contact. And each student had 2 mentors. So there was always a route for the student to talk to one of the mentors, especially important if there was a time difference. One of the mentors and students had a 12-hour time difference. So a backup mentor meant that the information was still being passed back in 2. And then we made the students report weekly, and they pretty much did this. There was a bit prodding for 1 or 2 of them, but not very much. They were very good about it. They told us when they weren't going to be able to report because they had exams or they were away on holiday. We could map their progress and see if any problems were occurring. Not that there were actually that many, but we could do that. And we anticipated issues. And the result of this is 100% success. It looks like all our students passed. They're all brilliant. But let's not neglect the main reason this happened. Florian Ragwitz's raffle. This is his plan, this is what he did. Send a newbie. Again, we sent a, where is he? Is Moritz here? Is he drunk? Is he fell over? Moritz is here for send a newbie. There were going to be 3 people, but yet again at the last minute, 2 people's visas were refused. They were rejected. So next year I'm going to have to come up with a different plan. Barbie's already given me a bit of a good idea of what we're going to do, but we're probably going to need to set an earlier time limit for people getting visas or try to work with the country in question, because unfortunately it just didn't happen. So we do have a sort of contingency going forward, but I'm open to some ideas if anybody's got any good ideas of how to overcome a visa problem from countries that have visa issues. Because it's a shame to exclude somebody just because they come from a country like that. So help me get the word out. Talk to me if you've got a better idea for finding visas, and I'm going to move on. The London Perl Workshop, which is the United Kingdom's Perl Workshop. Once again, it's going to be held at the University of Westminster, held on the 12th of November this year. You have to go there. The call for papers is already open. We also have a call for training sessions this year. This year we're going to have 2 training rooms. Dave Cross is already going to do a training session. There's a guy called Ian Norton who's going to do another training session. I would like more people, more training sessions. It's a very, very good time to try to get into Perl and to get people who are already working in Perl to, refresh their experience and get more modern Perl down their throats. So, industrial strength Perl is our theme this year. And look, free everything. Who else gives you that? And the free beer is not a joke. Every year I say that we'll have less money next year because we have to pay for more. This year I had to find £2 grand for the venue, and I have more beer money. I'm not sure how that works. I say to the sponsors, I need more money from you because we've got to pay for this, and they say, well, we want to pay for the beer as well. They seem to like giving you guys beer because they know you. So I hope to see you all there. And the very last thing, need your help. Every single person sat in this room has got to do something. Every single person in the whole world has got to do something. You're going to start with one very simple thing. I brought some flyers with me. They look like this. I want you to take at least one, maybe two, and I want you to put them up somewhere. Whether it's at a workplace, whether it's at a community centre, whether it's at somebody else's technical meet, it's not Perl, whether it's a university, college, school, whether you put them on somebody's desk because you think they don't actually follow the community, but you have to do it. And if you don't do it, I'm going to come find you. And I'm going to give you some pain, because everybody keeps on saying to me, we must do more to say things about Perl, we must shout about Perl some more. Hello? You're all in the room, you can all do something. This is where you start. Please do it. Please distribute them everywhere. I absolutely need your help on this. And if you fail to do it, you failed yourselves. They're also available on the internet, at that address. They can be printed out in 3 different forms. They've got a bleed on them. Some of them are just zero bleed, you can print on a home printer. And you can just get a black and white printer. There's black and white versions as well with no background picture. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Maxim from Vienna.pm, and I want you to remember the 5th of November. If you've been in Pisa last year, you will know what's coming now, because we're going to host the Twin City Perl Workshop 2011. That's in the capitals of Austria and Slovakia, in about 3 months from now, on the first Friday and Saturday in November, in Europe's bestest hackerspace, the Meta Lab in beautiful Vienna, and at the not yet known place in Bratislava. So if you're interested, bookmark the YAPC Europe website, it will show up somewhere there. The ACT webpage and the formal announcement is, with the call for papers, is coming soon. Thanks.
I kind of screwed up my monitor setting, so I'm gonna have to do it this way. I'm gonna talk about reinventing Build.PL. Once upon a time there was MakeMaker. MakeMaker is a Perl program that writes a make file that contains shell, that contains Perl. Oh, sorry. And well, that's like, it works pretty well, but it's really complicated to extend because you have to know like 3 languages, and especially shell is very non-portable. So, some 10 years ago, someone came by and said, let's write something similar, but now in pure-perl, so that we can extend it in pure-perl. This became module build. Module build was a really neat idea. However, it's implemented rather suboptimally. I could spend a lot more than 5 minutes talking about all the things I dislike about it, but I'm going to summarize it in 1 sentence. Its main class is about 6,000 lines, has more than 300 methods, including 85 accessors, and it's just big spaghetti. Oh, by the way, it's lacking a maintainer because no one wants to maintain this thing anymore. So, what are we... So, what are we going to do about it? Personally, I don't think this is fixable without breaking all extensions anyway, so I'd say let's just throw it away. However, I still really, the original concept I rather liked. So, what if we could write a new Build.PL tool that does work as never mind. Anyway, there have been 2 developments in the past couple of years that would make this a lot more convenient than it was 10 years ago. The first of that was configure requires, which is a key in the meta.yaml or JSON file. This means that the installer doesn't have to be installed before you try to install it. The cPen client will automatically handle all of that for you. It's supported out of the box on 5.10.1, but if you upgrade your cPen client, it's also supported on older Perl versions. Another development, which is, well, we're progressing a bit slowly but surely, is the Build.PL specification. Because there's cPen clients expect Build.PL to behave in a certain way as module builds behaves, and so any future module builder would have to behave in a similar way. So therefore, we started this experiment. Module build tiny. Module build tiny is not the module builder of the future. It is a prototype that tries to do the simplest thing possible and still be useful. This means it's only supporting pure-perl and such. Another important difference is that it's actually used. It's currently only 65 lines, and now you may wonder, how the hell do you do that? Well, the same way you write any other Perl program. I think you can all guess what's going there. Partly this included existing cPen modules, and and part of it is new modules that I extracted from module build. Now, some of you may think this is cheating, but it's really not, because making those modules makes the real module makes writing the module builder of the future really a lot more convenient. Well, there are 4 steps in the module build. Configuration does hardly anything, so I'm going to skip it. Building is the least defined part. In my case, it's just copying a few files, generating a few man pages. It's trivial. Testing is a bit complicated, but we've been having a module for that for years, so it's also quite trivial. Installing was surprisingly complicated, so I cut that out of module build, put it in a module, and that's now surprisingly simple. It didn't include authoring, so for now I wrote like a Diesel plugin, which is like in 25 lines, and then you have a complete authoring toolchain, which is surprisingly simple. My conclusion, writing a module builder that doesn't suck is actually not that hard anymore, so maybe we should write one.
Hi there, we don't have any more announcements, but if anyone would like to make a quick announcement for the next few speakers, please come see me down here. Thanks.
Okay, so this talk is about a module called a module which builds documents for Microsoft Word. So you might wonder why would one like to do that. Well, I'm working for Geneva Courts, and at Geneva Courts we have to produce thousands of documents every day from hundreds of modules, and those modules have some reusable parts, so it's really a big business. And the result has to be editable in Microsoft Word, because that's the tool that everybody has on his desk. So there is a module on cPen that does that. I'll just start with the demo and then explain a little bit how it works. So the module is used start by opening an object. You ask it, you can attach some images or other resources to it. Then there is a section that writes. The first page is just plain HTML, as everybody knows to do it. So you can use your favorite HTML building tool, like the template toolkit or whatever else. You insert that into the document. And here is an example where we tell to Microsoft Word to build a new page, so page break, new section, change the layout, put some headers and footers, and finally produce the document. So if I can manage to do that. Okay, and here's my Word document. So I have just produced a Word document, and you see the headers and footers and all the layout. So again, this is a very useful tool in a business environment where people have Microsoft on their desktops and you still want to automate some of the stuff, but you cannot produce PDF because PDF is a closed format, and here we wanted users to be able to edit the stuff. How it works, it uses a feature of Microsoft Word, which is that it knows how to read and to write HTML. The trick is to pack the whole thing into a MIME multi-part file. So in that file, we will have the HTML, the images, the styles, or whatever you need. The headers and footers are separate HTML files, but you also add them in the MIME multi-part stuff. And this module helps you to do the whole thing and have it in a very easy way for client Perl code. That's it. Thank you.
Hi, I work for the Chemnitz Linux Days, the second largest Linux conference in Germany, and we are certainly the coolest in whole Germany. The main issue is Chemnitz is kind of a stronghold for Python, and I need you guys to help me to make it a stronghold for Perl. So come, send us your talks, and have fun at the conference. Thank you.
Alright, hello. What we're going to talk about is my attempt, actually a pretty successful attempt, to build subname in pure-perl. Pure-perl here means that we do not need any kind of C compiler or makefile or header files or anything on your system to be able to name your anonymous code refs. Now, just for those who don't know what subname is, it is a very little module that is available on CPAN and allows you to assign a specific name to a code ref that has been created dynamically in your runtime code. This is important one for meter stack traces, so actually you can say that this code ref actually represents such and such method name, and you can see it in your carp confess or in your move stack trace or whatever. You actually can tell what this code ref was. And additionally, for the Perl MRO, next method relies on the names of the code refs from which next method is called. So, what does subname do internally? There is more stuff obviously, but it is that simple. You create what is called a GV, which basically is a glob ref, which holds the name of the code ref, and then it is being attached to the CD right there on the last line, and we switch off some flag and whatever. So we can write memory in pure-perl, as David Ledbetter showed on last London Perl workshop. It is actually pretty hacky, but it works. We can take any random memory address and put any random string into it using a simple pipe and syswrite and then a sysread into a specific memory slot. So that's how. Now, what do we write? Well, with Perl, obviously we can make a global ref without any problem using val. So we go ahead, get the stash and the name of the subroutine name that we want to use, and we just make we compile the global ref, and then we find its B object and we return. Okay, and this B object has the good property that it actually contains the memory at which this global ref lives. Okay, so now we have the global ref. We need to write it somewhere. How do we know where to write it? Well, we can find out in your city structure, in your code ref structure, where the actual geo pointer lives, like where is the offset in the structure. We could trivially do this by reading the Perl source code and looking at CVH, but for this we would need a C processor and stuff that we don't have available. So what we do instead is we create a named code ref. We know that it has a global ref. We use B to find the global ref address, and then we start reading raw memory from the start of the code ref until we find this particular address that we already know. And this gives us the offset where the global ref address is. And well, after that, all we have to do is write our subname. So we create on the bottom the global ref, and then we write it into the SP body address plus the offset of the global ref address in this SP body. Now, this works for pretty much all the simple cases when the actual name that you want to use is just regular characters, basically ASCII, alphanumeric plus the underscore. However, the actual subname allows better functionality. It allows you to put whatever you want in the name. And I struggled whether I should put it on here, and I did not. But the actual code that you can find here does that. You can basically you can go there and see how I do it, because it is not for the kind of hard. But the short story is that we find the offsets of the name of the global ref in the global ref itself for different versions of Perl, because it changes. And we simply create a global ref with a name that is long enough, just as long as the name you want to put on there. And then we simply replace the string. And that's pretty much it.
There are a number of attendees in this conference who have something in common. Brian Defoy, Karl Maysak, Florian Ragnitz, Gabor Scharo, Leon Timmermans, Zeno Nünür, and myself are participating in Stack Overflow. It's a question and answer website for programmers. The site works particularly well because it builds on the human behaviors of competition and collaboration. Smart questions, user-ranked answers, and wiki-style editing to eradicate errors and outdated information. The site needs more people who understand modern Perl and the community's current best practices. So to join in, go to stackoverflow.com and subscribe to the feeds for the tags Perl and Persec. Thanks.
Great. Yeah. What is modern WxPerl? I'm Herbert Breunung. from Germany and do mostly psyops, which means to manipulate what other people think. But I'm not chromatic. Why I'm using the term modern? Actually, it's not so far-fetched because on his Onyx Neon I will also publish a book which summarizes my WX tutorial, which I currently write for the pure-perl magazine and do some other stuff for WxPerl, write documentation, and in leading to the book I write some more modules, planning for some more, and also for this module what I'm going to talk about. What is GCL WX? What is GCL? GCL is, I mean by that GUI composition language, and that's something just a handful of you last year visited my Rebel talk, where I learned how they do create GUI with obscene few characters of code. I draw also other influences from Prima and FreeTweet, which is also a layer above WX, who try to simplify things greatly, by Eric Wilhelm, you may be heard. And the GCL WX is then only the front end for WX for that. It's just hot air by now, an idea, and I'm the second who trying not to follow Damien do a live demo. No, actually, live demos don't much, because I just want to show you what that's complete minimal sample in WX, what you need to just make a frame. Then I inserted here a label. I'm using, of course, the most advanced editor called Kefra. It has the standard border around the label of 5 pixels. Great. Which is here. Can you see? And you see you have a lot of boilerplate code around, which we got rid of it. And if you want to make it even right, you have even to put a panel on the side, because a lot of buttons and other are like looking through. You see the back of the window behind another window looks ugly, so you need as much code to just get, I show you now the demo, and it will work, yes. And that's just the colored label, nothing more. Yeah? What's also special, and in GCL, this would just, I put it here in the data section, in the GCL, it's just that, one line, yeah, and also the second part of the line, just text, content, and color blue, yeah, because it's a color content. He figures out with blue I mean the color. I don't have to generate a color object. For all the borders I have same defaults. I have so less syntax, yeah, and that's just one simple, little bit most. It would like just a small frame would look like this. They have a title line, they have a text with a decorator line, and a row where you have two buttons. It's you can immediately rock it. It's I will do it like Rebel, that you can change afterward everything you want. You can standard row, yes, but do that in WX is really, really too much. I won't show it. It brings back to joy to GUI programming because it's much less syntax. It has no tech clutter because there's no additional apps, no file formats, no tools. You can still do nice MVC that you have in the GUI in a different abstraction layer if you want to. It's still pure-perl, and or you cannot if you don't want to. It can be a unified API for the different toolkits, even for Persec, to do it consciously. And it could be something really new and outstanding, because I don't want to compete with Microsoft on the GUI design level, because WX Form Builder, for instance, is the way Elias want to go. We never reach that quality soon, but go in something we are strong at, use our text editors and do it consciously fast. And what really makes up a good GUI is something that you have to tweak often. And if it's very less syntax, you can tweak easily. So Perl can become the language, for instance, like many people who don't know much and say, oh yeah, Ruby is this Ruby on Rails, and great language to make web development. Perl could be the language here. You can easily develop applications with that. Thank you.
I need two people to come to me, to talk to me. One of them is Alex Muntada from Barcelona. Would you please go to the back, and I will go there, please. I need you. And the other one is Soren Pop from Romania. Is he here? Could you walk with me? Thank you. That's all. Sorry to disturb you.
Will we ever see them again? We're wondering what's going to be for dinner tomorrow.
Hello. So I will talk about Act, which is the Act conference toolkit, which is a software used to run the site of this conference, as well as many other Perl conferences. 20 this year, and now a bit more than 100 since 2003. Here are some examples of the conference: the Dutch Power Workshop, YAPC Brazil, this year's YAPC Riga, the Chinese conference. Also, not just Perl conference, like the Dynamic Language Conference, as well as this year fair in France. But of course, Patch acts as any open source software. Well, Patch were welcome, but people were saying that it was too hard to contribute because it was in salvation. So last month we migrated the source to Git. It's available on GitHub. So now it should be easy to fork and contribute. Remember that Act is also your software, because for user or organizer, it's the website that you will use for the conference. So we know it has some issue, but all of them are fixable with just a bit of time. We are not many to add the code right now. So help is greatly welcome. Thank you.
I'm not going to sit on stage, but I'm going to talk about an ACT conference, which is osdc.fr. It's a joint effort with the Ruby, Python, and Perl French communities to do a conference when we, instead of fighting, we share experience and insight on the technologies that we use, so we can steal their secrets and give them ours. This year it's going to be the 3rd edition. People are coming, people like it, it's nice. And it's going to be on the 23rd and 24th of September in Paris. And it tightly overlaps with the Portuguese Perl workshop. So.
Hi. I'm going to talk about some proposals for some changes in the community. So, in the community over the last few years, we've been talking an awful lot about marketing. Every time you go to a conference, there's talks about marketing. Even this afternoon, you've seen Marc Keating doing a sterling job leading the Perl marketing drive. I don't know, has anyone else noticed that Marc has the perfect name for running the marketing? But the question we need to ask ourselves is, why are we doing this marketing? And the answer you normally get is people saying, so we get more Perl programmers. Now, is this really a good idea? Think about it. I can prove this with science. 1995, some of you are old enough to have been using Perl in 1995. Larry was, at least. Perl was the go-to language for writing web programs. It's about the time that I first started using Perl. And what was the most popular Perl website around in the time? Matscript Archive, launched in 1995 when Perl was at the height of its web popularity. More Perl programmers leads to more bad Perl programmers. Doesn't look so tempting now, does it? Is popularity really what we want? Here's a fact that I've just made up. But I've yet to find a counterexample. So let's think about naming. We currently call ourselves Perlmongers. Does everyone out there know where the name Perlmongers comes from? What a monger is? I looked on Wikipedia. No, Wiktionary. A monger is a dealer in a specific commodity, normally used in combination with things like a costermonger, fishmonger, that kind of thing, ironmonger. Sorry? Well, there's also a second definition saying it's someone promoting something undesirable. So I'm hoping that we're the first definition rather than the second definition. Some of us like to call ourselves Perl monks. And again, there's that dichotomy there. Monks are these jolly, shaven-headed fellows that go around being nice to people, but there's also that kind of kung fu monk, downside, evil person. So I'm thinking maybe we should look elsewhere for a name to base ourselves on. And I came up with this. This is the symbol for Freemasonry. Of course, we're going to have to get rid of that G because people think that we're being run by Guido or something like that. And for those of you who are still a bit more old-fashioned, we can have a slightly different logo. But yes, I'm talking about Perl Masons. Popularity is not what we're asking, what we're after. What we need is exclusivity. We need to be a secret society. Membership by invitation only. So what you do is if you see somebody that works near you and you reckon they're a decent programmer, then you sidle up to them in the pub. Obviously they'll be in the pub or we're not interested in them. And offer them membership of the Perl Masons. Larry obviously will be the Grand Master. We have secret monthly meetings. So in some cases that's not so different to the way the Perl members groups at the moment, if you look at their websites. Arcade knowledge passed on at these meetings, again, not completely different to the way things are going at the moment. Obscure websites? Sorry, Leo. The Perl Foundation goes underground. That's completely different to how it is at the moment.
We've only just got them to start doing things!
I'm going to promote the use of Acme bleach in all Perl code to stop people knowing what it is that we're actually doing. And the best thing is, of course, we get to have a secret handshake. I haven't yet worked out what the secret handshake is going to be, but it's going to be great. Secret password, mine's blank. And of course, by becoming an exclusive secret society, you immediately have an increased call factor, which brings in money. Have you ever known a Mason lodge that is short of money? So, you know it makes sense. Say no to Perl marketing. Say yes to the Perl Masons. And any campaign like this really needs a catchphrase. And I suddenly realised that there's a catchphrase that you all already know. What's the first rule of Perl Club? You do not talk about Perl Club. Thank you very much for listening.
Just to say that some of us are meeting up tonight in the square that we were at last night, so if anyone else wants to join us, we'll be there. There may be beer involved. Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of the first day of Lightning Talks. Two more sets coming up. If you have a talk, please submit it. If you have an advertisement to do the other 2 days, you'll want to do that too. I can't believe there was nobody who wanted to say anything about a BOF, except maybe the beer tonight. Now it's time for the auction. If you have anything that needs to be up here or you're in any way involved, come on up now and we will start auctioning things in just a few minutes.